Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Galactic Core podcast on this either lovely sunny or really shitty Sunday, depending on which country you're in, I guess. I hear it's nice and lovely over in America, but it's not so nice here in the UK. So, but thank you for coming and joining with us on this lovely Sunday. I have got two of the most fantastic, good-looking guys that ever grace the podcast game. They are regulars on this show. You're familiar with them by now, and if you're not, I don't know where the fuck you've been for the last year and a half or a couple of years even for their podcast, so should know them very well by now. But everyone, please welcome to the show JD and Dave from the So Sidious Podcast.
Thank you.
Guys, helps if I turn it off loop.
Keep it going. It makes me feel good. Yeah, thanks for having us. We're doing great. We're happy to be here. JD, do you agree with me? You feeling great?
I think JD's muted.
Oh, he is muted. What a start.
Damn, I said suck it, love, right when the music started, too. It was a classic. Yeah, doing great. Big moves in life, and happy to be here. So thank you, Andy. I'm excited to talk about this wacky comic with you and whatever else we talk about. It's always fun.
Indeed. First and foremost, guys, though, just in case anyone isn't familiar with your podcast, tell us a little bit about what you're about, what you do, and where we can find you.
Yeah,
JD's gonna tell it right now.
Dave was gonna too, and then I was gonna, but then maybe one of us will.
JD's the TikTok king, to be fair. 16.8 thousand followers on TikTok.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad it didn't die yet. So pushing that would have been losing a lot of eyes there. So TikTok would have been a big loss. Yeah, we cover nerd content, movies, shows, sometimes some comics and books. And yeah, we do weekly news. We do comic book reviews, movie reviews, some theory stuff going up to it, some nerd therapy stuff where we just sit back and talk about nerd stuff. We might bring some philosophical questions and make it real interesting, or we might bring some really funny questions and get a little laughter going, stuff like that. So nerd content, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So
Nice. You guys not branched out into Blue Sky yet?
I don't even know what that is.
No idea what that is.
Okay, fair enough. So it's basically like a new Twitter. So like one of the guys that originally invented Twitter has gone and created Blue Sky. It's basically like a rip-off of the original Twitter before a lot of the changes and stuff like that happened. It's just basic like word count and feed and just like the original Twitter essentially.
Oh man,
so it's an Elon free Twitter. Gotcha.
Indeed, yes.
Check that out. All right.
I have recently joined. The Galactical Podcast has recently joined Blue Sky, just in case anyone is wanting to follow us on there. So pop over there, jump on there. I'm sure the WSS guys will be there very soon. You've got a merch store as well, haven't you?
Yes, we do. We got some shirts, old logo, new logo, black, white, hoodies, all the way from a hoodie to a tank top. Yeah. Oh heck yeah! Let's go, Andy.
There we go. Just in case you're wanting to know what the Why So Sidious stuff looks like, I'm marketing their hoodie right here, right now. So there we go. So beautiful stuff. I like to get my favorite podcast merch.
We gotta increase the size of that image on the hoodies.
Yeah, I think you could do.
Yeah.
I think yeah. I mean, I am fat, so it probably stretches across my chest.
No, it's like you can tell where they painted it. That square needs to be enlarged.
And I have recently opened up a merch store as well. For anyone wanting to grab yourself a little bit of the GCP podcast merch, you can find the links all through my social media. If you want to jump on there, get yourself a hoodie, a t-shirt, get your wife a t-shirt, get your baby a little onesie. That's on the merch store as well as some hats. So
onesie.
Yeah, I've just ordered one for my little one. To be fair,
up to buy a onesie.
So that turns up next week, and we'll see how that good that is. But yep, anyone wanting a bit of Galactic Core merch, get yourself on there. Things will be added, new designs will get added over time. So make sure you're jumping on there to get all of that. We're going to run through a few things in the show today. So primarily, first and foremost, we are going to be here to cover a wacky comic, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. This news was announced a while ago, and me and Dave did a little special presentation of I think it was like 15-20 minute episode when the news got announced, just to talk about it because it was something that caught my eye, and I was like, hey, this looks interesting. I like sometimes some of the wacky out there one-off comics that they do. Like JD, we talked about maybe covering the Avengers versus Aliens comics, like Xenomorphs, but that hasn't quite finished being published yet, so maybe we'll have to do that a little bit further down the line. But I like these kind of wacky things. I'm a big Godzilla Monsterverse fan nowadays as well, so I thought this could be quite fun to cover. We're going to do a little bit of show and tell as well, just for a little bit of fun, because why not? But first and foremost, there's some stuff I want to get into since we're chatting DC stuff. So James Gunn, head of the new DCU. We've had Creature Commandos come out first and foremost, because he said obviously everything's going to be canon, whether it's animated, TV, film, possibly even games as well. Creature Commandos is the most recent thing to come out. Unfortunately, no one in the UK has picked it up, so I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, which is quite annoying. Have you guys had a chance to watch it at all?
Yeah, I watched it and I really liked it. And I'm not usually an animated fan, so it was really good for animated.
Lucky you, yeah. I just haven't. No one's picked it up, which is so annoying.
Interesting.
You think someone in the UK would do it?
That's a bummer. Yeah, it's quite a market they're not tapping into.
Well, normally with like HBO Max stuff or something like that, there's it's like Sky TV is the one that picks it up over here, but no one's claimed it as of yet. So that's a bit disappointing that it's had a fresh start, and the first thing that they've kind of released, and excuse me, I don't even get to watch it yet. So
yeah, that feels like a massive dropped ball there. I don't know how you let that fly, but I haven't watched it yet either. But I'm much more of an animated project guy than JD is most of the time when it comes to it. And so everything I've heard JD say, I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy it, but I have not started it yet.
I wonder, are you worried it's going to feel too much like the Suicide Squad, Andy, or either of you?
Oh, what, the Creature Commandos?
Yeah.
I was thinking that a little bit, but at the same time, I kind of think that they would be savvy enough to put their own thing onto it, rather than making it feel like another project that we've already kind of had. So I wasn't necessarily too worried about it. I just want to watch it.
Yeah, and you're right about that. They do a good job at being different. So
Well, we just have so much of that. You got 2 Suicide Squad movies. We've got the Thunderbolts that are coming out, which is basically Marvel's Suicide Squad. You got Creature Commandos, which is basically another Suicide. So you've had a lot of this. So you really got to be unique with it to some extent to not be the same. Set yourself apart.
And you know, the game came out recently as well, didn't it? Even if it sort of died early. But,
I knew I was missing something. Yeah.
But we've obviously got one of the big guns from the DC coming later on this year, but in July. Superman is dropping, and every time I see JD chat about this film, I know it's one of his most anticipated upcoming things, and he's super excited about it. And I just wanted to grill JD a little bit. I've kind of ambushed him here today for this, about his unwavering confidence and love in how James Gunn is going to shape this DCU. So I was listening to one of your shows just a couple of weeks ago when you were sort of doing your, what's to come in 2025 review. And you were saying that James Gunn has completely got this. There's no reason to be worried. He knows what he's doing. He's a comic book fan, and you have absolute 1,000% faith in what he's doing, JD. So just tell us a little bit about that, because I know from, and I'm sure you know from interactions we've had when you've been doing your live episodes and comments I've made, I don't quite have the same faith.
For sure.
So it's not that I'm here to have a go or anything like that. I'm just interested.
Have a go.
Now that we're face to face, so to speak, that we can have a little bit more of a proper chat about, rather than me just putting it in the comments of your live shows.
Yeah, no, I guess. Well, and if you've listened to a ton of our podcast on Why So Sidious, you might get sick of hearing me say this, but James Gunn. So, I mean, well, let's go back to the DCEU. It was really disappointing to see that just not succeed. I really love the characters. I like DC Comics more than Marvel. And that was always a question until like this last couple of years. And I've read so much DC. It's just better. I like the characters more. But anyway, seeing that fail was a bummer. But hearing about James Gunn take everything over was crazy. Not only is it just him running it, but it's the first time DC has had their own studio. So even if it wasn't James Gunn, I feel like that already gives them way more of a chance to succeed, because they don't have to go through levels of management for creative approval, right? So not only does DC have their own studio under Warner Brothers, but James Gunn, man. And he did the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. We already knew he did all of this good stuff. But then Guardians 3 comes out, shows us he can get deep, intense, emotional. That's my favorite Guardians movie. He's a comic book fan, a massive comic book fan. And not only that, the Peter Safran thing is a huge win, because someone like Kevin Feige has such a gigantic workload. We hear about it all the time, because he does what Peter Safran and James Gunn are going to split. Peter Safran's going to do all the business side of things that takes so much of a load off of James Gunn, so he could just sit, think, write, prepare. I think he's got the right vibe for this movie. I think he's got the right attitude. I think he has a love for all the characters, so I think he will do them a justice. I don't know. I'm excited that he's willing to have some of this go rated R. I think that gives it a really big leg up. I think that putting the story first for every project is huge. I think that not announcing projects until they're like actually fully greenlit and in production, like all the things he's saying about it seem perfect. So I just think it's the best possible scenario. Of course, no one on the planet can be put in that position, and you could say DC is 100% going to succeed, or it's for sure going to be as good as the Infinity Saga. That's impossible to say, but I couldn't imagine a better scenario for James Gunn and a partner to take the workload off to do the business side, and they have their own studio, and he's a huge comic book fan, and he knows and loves the characters. He's a genuine comic book fan, and it's going to be some of it rated R. So I just think it's nothing but wins.
I do forget sometimes that he did do one of the Suicide Squad films, obviously the better one out of the two, to be fair. Better by quite some way, to be fair. So, yeah, just a little bit better, wasn't it, than the first one. I think where it comes in for me is I think sometimes Guardians of the Galaxy has been slightly overrated. I think the second Guardians of the Galaxy film is one of my lowest rated MCU films out of all of them.
Hiss.
I used to not love it. So I know where you're coming from.
It is the only MCU film or Star Wars film or DC film that I've been to see at the cinema that I ever fell asleep in. I had to go back and watch it again because I fell asleep. So I'm not a great fan of it. I like the first one. I think the third one is definitely a good film. I there are certain points that just don't quite hit for me. And I suppose I like Suicide Squad. I was just thinking that I think maybe that because he is a comic book fan and he went and did the Guardians trilogy, that basing what he can then do for the DCU off top of that, it was maybe it was just for me an overreach at the time in terms of thinking what he could do. And then you go on to that you say about, like, I know he does this thing of until they've written a script and they've got it ready to start production, that that he's not really announcing projects. But at the same point, he came out and went, here's a bunch of projects we're going to start off with. So we're already waiting for a bunch of these to come on, and they've announced a few more as well on top of that.
And some of the things he already announced did already change. So you're right about all that.
So this is where it gets dangerous, because you go out straight from the off and go, here's 10, 15 projects we are definitely going to do. And then you start to change that because of issues. It's something that Marvel and Star Wars have run into issues with recently, is announcing stuff years in advance and then having to change their plan because things don't work out. And then recently, the whole thing with Batman. So we had, what was it, the Brave and the Bold film that they said they were going to do? That was going to be an older Batman with Damian sort of maybe possibly even taking over the mantle at some point. And now they're in talks to have Rob Pattinson's Batman be the face of the DCU. So already you're then changing plans over to go to a really much younger Batman as well that doesn't necessarily fit in with what you originally planned. So already, to me, I'm like, are the wheels starting to wobble a little bit already because you've thrown too much out straight from the start? What do you think, JD? Am I not quite on the ball with this one, or do you think that's a fair?
No, the Batman is the first like wrench thrown into the machine, right? It seems kind of weird, but although I think he did come in and say like it's for sure not going to be Robert Pattinson, I don't think any of us really know what's going on back there. But from what I understand, WB was kind of pushing, hey, let's just get Pattinson in there. And James Gunn was like, no. And I don't know if this part's true, but it seems like there was a moment where he was considering it, though, because there was some kind of quotes or something where it sounded like it was open for discussion. And that was kind of around the same era when we heard WB was pushing for Robert Pattinson to be the DCU Batman. So I don't know what's going on there, man, but I do think they're going to figure it out, and they're going to figure out a way to get both of them done. I love that he's picking Damian Wayne too, by the way, for the DCU side of things, which is really cool. But Robert Pattinson's Batman, I don't think fits in there. I really would prefer him to stay on that grounded detective style. So I hope they stick with that.
Amy on YouTube saying, I want to say DC can't get much worse, but they see that as a challenge. But I don't think there's much. I don't think there's anyone's expecting them to do worse than what's already been before. So
right, and I would say at least let a few shows and a couple movies come out first before we really get into it, because I think he's already Creatures Commandos, which that was my least excited project for the DCU side of things. I wasn't really excited to even press play, but I ended up loving it. So that's that really gave me even a little more excitement, like I needed more. But it's already one little win, and another the big win has to happen soon. And it's so great that he's doing it himself. He's directing his universe, establishing the tone, and giving them that foundation with like the character. So I think that's perfect. And by the end of this year, we'll have a much better idea of what's going on.
Clan Brandalorian, yo boys. Welcome
to
Brando. Nice to see you back. It's been so long since I've seen you, Brandon. It's been like a whole week.
Oh my god!
So nice to see you. Nice to see you joining us.
Do you even remember what he looks like anymore?
No, not really, mate. To be fair, it's not like I see his face every day on Instagram either. So it's all good. And then we got Ramez Guide. What's up? Why So Sidious?
What's up, man?
He's waiting for the Teen Titans movie. Is his big one. So
sounds exciting. One thing that one of the worst things about what's coming up is I'm really bummed about the dynamic duo. What I've been hearing about that, like Red Hood and Nightwing being a couple of the coolest characters in comic books, period. And you're telling me that we're going to get their origin with like puppets and animation. I'm really bummed about that. That's what they said, though. If you looked into it, they're literally using some kind of
claymation or some weird type of, I forget what it was.
I know puppets for sure are incorporated somehow, and that doesn't sound exciting, to be honest. I would really love a live action Red Hood story. That's like one of my most wanted DC projects, period. Just like a Red Hood movie. So an Under the Red Hood, and then Nightwing is definitely up there in the top 3-4 most wanted characters on live screen. And I want to see the origin story too. We know we're skipping Dick Grayson. I want to see it all, but puppets.
Yeah, I mean, oh, it does say animation, puppetry, and CGI. But I will say, apparently Matt Reeves is producing it. It's not going to be connected to the Batman, but he's going to be on that project too. So that's at least a bonus. I liked animation. I'll give it a try. But yeah, I think we were all expecting live action when we heard that stuff about Nightwing and Red Hood. But I just want to say one thing about the James Gunn thing. I'm more in JD's camp than Andy's with it. I do have some hope to it. I don't think it's going to be DCEU or worse. But the only thing I'm concerned about right now is,
and that's all we could get from David this week. I'm really sorry to say that it's such a shame that that Dave had to leave us. I can't believe that's happened. No, I'm joking.
I thought my internet crashed. I was like, oh man, right when I was getting into it. You son of a gun, Andy. Well, now I'm not even in Andy's camp at all. That guy is way off the rocker. Please don't suspend me again.
I think there's a delete button here. Ban from studio. That's the button I want. Yeah. That's it.
No, but so I'm worried that the entire universe is going to be too James Gunn-ish. I think he's got a quirky edge to a lot of his projects that kind of have the same feel. And so I hope that he gives up the reins enough in other projects that I think we need more diversity in the universe, which I think that's why I loved Guardians, is because it felt like its own thing when it first got brought into the MCU. It felt like it could have stood alone without the MCU at all. So I want those types of projects, but I hope we get some more grounded, gritty feeling stuff to it too, that kind of lacks the humor and type of James Gunn style to it, which I think he will. I think he'll let the guys have creative control on those other projects, but yeah, I think following through in that is kind of my only two worries right now. But
yeah, that reminds me of another reason I'm so excited, is because he was directing at Marvel and helping produce at Marvel when they were at their peak, absolute peak. So he kind of gets to see the structure of how the MCU worked. So he gets to bring that over to the DC and start from the ground up too. So it'll even be more organized and more his. But hey, he's going to have a ton of different directors, right? We don't even know what the next movie he's going to direct is, but we know things like Mangold. Gritty, pretty dark, usually Logan. Anyway, Swamp Thing supposed to be a straight horror film. So I'm hoping we'll get some diversity too, and I think we will.
Straight up.
And, Amy's saying that she's excited for Mike Flanagan's Clayface film.
Yeah,
I think that was a surprise when they announced that as well. I was definitely thinking it would be a good addition. To be fair. And I would just backtrack to Ramesh saying the Bat Family finally getting live action. Yes, please. I think we've all been waiting for the Bat Family, to be fair, rather than just a Batman. We haven't seen a Bat Family since what was it, Val Kilmer's Batman? Was it?
Yeah. Live action wise.
Yeah.
Was it Val Kilmer or was it? No, it was George Clooney. George Clooney and no, I think it was just George Clooney. Yeah.
He had Robin and what was it, Batwoman? And a few others.
Val Kilmer was Batman Forever, I think, with
Schwarzenegger,
I think. Oh no, that was he did have Robin and Batgirl, and that.
Yeah.
How badly do they need Superman movie to be a hit? Because it's the big summer face-off, really, isn't it? Superman versus Fantastic Four. I think both studios kind of need those films to go really well, don't they? Because Marvel finally getting their hands on the Fantastic Four, and they've been in a little bit of a slump. I think this year they're getting it out of the slump. I'm really looking forward to Captain America 4. Thunderbolts looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and probably an underrated hit. Daredevil's coming out, which you don't need to see me orgasm over a TV, so that's absolutely fine. And obviously, Fantastic Four and Superman coming out. So these two are the big summer blockbusters. How does it really matter to DC whether they get beaten in the box office by Fantastic Four? Is it just going to matter that the quality of the film itself is good?
I've thought about this a lot. See, I don't think that the box office needs to hit $1 billion, but I do think it is super important for it to be well received, like really good, everybody likes it kind of thing, just to make it clear to everybody in question, like, oh, okay, like DC could possibly be coming back. Like, it's not like, oh, some people love it, some people don't like it. It's like, oh, this is like a great movie, everyone loves it. So I think they need really high reception, but I think their box office, I think Fantastic Four might win just because the trust in the universe, even if they've lost some trust, the MCU still has a large fan base committed. So I think Fantastic Four will win at the box office, and I think that's totally fine. I just think Superman needs to be a great movie, and they could still get away with making 700 million in that ballpark, maybe 800.
Dave, what do you think?
No, they both need to land. I think I've switched at the start of this. I was much more excited for Fantastic Four. I really wasn't that excited for Superman because, again, I don't know if I've said it on this show before, but I was never a Superman fan at all until Man of Steel. That was the first time I ever had an interest in a Superman project. And since then, I've gotten more into them. Expand. I like Superman and Lois, the series on Max. It's not the most amazing show, quality wise, but I really enjoy it. So I've gotten more into Superman over the past few years, and I gotta say the trailer, although Guy Gardner just looked like the biggest doofus possible, and there was a couple other shots that were very goofy. Overall, I really liked the style of it, and it kind of gave me a lot more hope. So I think it's going to do good. I think I'm actually going to enjoy Superman more than Fantastic Four. Can't speak for the box office, but I think it goes without saying both of these need to land. I mean, it can't even be like a Wakanda Forever style for Fantastic Four, where some people really liked it, some people really did not. This needs to be like, all right, that was a top 15 all-time MCU movie, no doubt. Ideally for them, top 10. But yeah, they really need to land these two.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Yeah, I think I agree in the fact that I don't think necessarily like Superman has to outperform the Fantastic Four in the box office, but it does need to be an all-round good film that everyone does receive well. Otherwise, it's going to set a tone moving forward that it's the same old DC universe, just new people at the helm, and I think that's the danger. So, like, the trailer didn't necessarily get me like super hyped up. Like, I enjoyed the trailer for the most part. I think there were bits in it that still I was like umming and ahhing about. Like, yeah, you couldn't help watch it a few times and just laugh at Guy Gardner and that haircut. I know that's like comic accurate. But at the same point, like, not necessarily sure I liked the Superman suit either. Like the trim around the top and stuff. I'm not sure I quite liked how that looked. So, but it's going to be interesting. Like the whole thing about he was going to be treating this as more of like a sci-fi film than maybe a classic grounded film is going to be interesting as well, because we saw a few hints there in the trailers as well, like your fire-breathing monsters and stuff, and whether that's going to be a bigger storyline. But I, like yourself, Dave, I wasn't necessarily like massive with Superman growing up or reading the comics. I've always been more of a Flash fan from the DC. That's probably Flash, Reverse Flash, my favorite DC characters. So I don't necessarily like I don't necessarily like clean-cut heroes from any comics as much as I like anti-heroes and the darker ones. So people like Captain America, Superman, I've not necessarily like followed them as closely as I would have done others, but it's not like I'm going to sit here and dismiss Superman straight from the off and be like, no, my name isn't Star Wars Theory. I'm not just going to shit on it for no reason. So I'm just going to sit back and just hope that it is just amazing, because I want to be blown away. I want to be absolutely blown away. I think my favorite meme that's come out of this though is the bit at the start when he's obviously he's been beating the shit out of, and he crashes into the snow, and he's just like whistling for Crypto to come and drag him away. Someone made a meme where he was like going pss, 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 as if it was like a super cat that he had, and the cat's just lying in the snow not moving, and
doesn't
Superman
care,
just turns into a skeleton because he's like, the cat's not going to move for me.
I like it. I like it. Well, Andy, can I ask you something real quick? I heard you mention Captain America there, and you're excited about it. We recently discussed 2025. We had an outlook on 2025 episode, and we were talking about Captain America and Thunderbolts, and I am really excited for Captain America, much more than I have been the whole time leading up to it. But I'm really feeling good about this. Are you more excited for that than Thunderbolts? How are you feeling about Captain America?
Yeah, I think so. I was a big advocate for the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series. I know not a lot of people necessarily were, and from I think I read IGN's listing of all the TV shows that Marvel have done since they started doing the Disney Plus shows, and I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was like third bottom or something, and I was like, really? I rate it. It's probably personally, it's one of my favorites. I think it's up there in the top 3 or 4 for me. So on the back of that, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, Bucky should have been given the shield and he should be the new Captain America. I'm like, yeah, but I think for the MCU, Sam Wilson's a good fit for that, especially the speech he gives right towards the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier when he's talking about how you got to stand up for what you believe in and all that sort of stuff. So I'm really excited for this. To be fair, the introduction of adamantium, finally getting obviously the Celestial discussed and that situation sorted out. The whole recasting thing, I'm not sure if Harrison Ford was the right fit for the person that should have been recast as Thunderbolt Ross. Especially since he refused to grow a mustache, and so they had to put that whole line in of like, lose the mustache or lose the election, just because he refused to grow a mustache for it.
That was a Harrison thing. I didn't know it was because he didn't. Oh my, classic.
He apparently turned around and he went, I'm not growing a mustache for this role, by the way. And they were like, okay, we'll sort it, don't worry. And so they just throw that line in there as a way of explaining it away. But we get the Thinker back as well. It's been obviously like 15, 16 years since we last saw him.
The
leader, sorry. I think that's me thinking Flash again.
David's the Thinker.
I am really excited for this film, to be fair. Probably more than Thunderbolts. I think the Thunderbolts, I think it's going to be a fun film. I think you guys were just discussing on that episode. We don't really know what the Thunderbolts is about, to be fair. And I think it was JD, you said you hope it's not this cliche thing of they have to go up against Sentry because he's all messed up and they have to combine together to stop him in the end, and then he joins them or whatever. So I hope there is more of a thicker plot to it than just that. But I'm always excited for a bit of Winter Soldier as well. I want to see him back in. I love that bit of the trailer where he's like Terminator riding with his sunglasses on the bike and just fires off the thing that knocks the car out. So I'm excited for it. I just think it's going to be a fun film rather than a really, really dead serious film. Hopefully these two films combined give us a bit more answers on the state of the MCU and what goes on with the Avengers right now and that sort of thing. I think there's some gaps they need to fill, but I think the biggest worry for me is we don't really have that long to go till Doomsday. And they need to start ramping up things for that film. They need, I think the Fantastic Four is going to be the one, isn't it? Because that's where, Doctor Doom's probably going to cross over from their universe to the main MCU, and that's going to start filling in the holes. But apart from that, I am super excited for these two films. More Captain America than I am Thunderbolts.
All right, same.
I think Thunderbolts is hiding something big. I really think something big is going on. I think Sentry needs to be in there for a reason. Far-fetched wise, Captain America 4 starts World War Hulk. Why else would they need a powerhouse like Sentry? Or they're fighting the Asgardians, which is what happened in the comics. And Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts had to take out the Asgardians because they were on Earth, and they are on Earth right now in the MCU, so that would make a lot of sense. I really like I don't think that World War Hulk idea, but could you imagine if they were hiding that? Because there's been so many rumors for a few years, and they finally did good at keeping a secret. And why else would they bring Hulk into Captain America 4? And then boom, there's this weird Hulk war going on. That would be crazy. I do think the Celestial will become Avengers base, also much like the comics, and Avengers Frozen on Earth was their base for a while. So I think we'll get some Avengers answers. We always have in Captain America stuff, somewhat. So there's a lot to look forward to, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think Thunderbolts, something really exciting is being hidden from us. And obviously the Dark Avengers, they have an asterisk on their title. I think it's going to be titled Dark Avengers. I would really love it. I was thinking I'd really love it if we found out Kingpin was funding Valentina, and we found out that Kingpin started the Thunderbolts, owns them, and then maybe they have some kind of depowering thing or some kind of suicide device planted in their neck, and Kingpin has a group of Thunderbolts, much like he did in the comics also. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could potentially happen.
I think there's one thing that I think needs to be addressed in the Captain America film, though, and that's the ending to Secret Invasion, the TV series, where basically the Americans declared that all aliens were now not welcome on Earth, and that they were going to eradicate them. So obviously we saw a bunch of people going around killing off Skrulls and stuff like that. Maybe part of that is that they want to make Captain America a military position again because they want to have that security against alien forces. But also I think maybe Thunderbolts get put together to be part of that as well. Valentina's been charged, by the CIA or her bosses at the CIA or the government by putting together a team that can hunt down aliens and be an effective team against them.
Yeah.
Right.
Could you imagine if it was all corrupt and Kingpin owns Valentina, owns the Thunderbolts, or anything else? Could you imagine if the title does change to Dark Avengers and Captain America is now obligated to lead them? I don't think that'll happen, but that'd be crazy.
I was just saying, Dave, but one of the things I think needs to be addressed in Captain America was the at the ending of the Secret Invasion TV series, where America declared that all aliens are now hostiles against the planet Earth, and they need to address that somehow. Maybe that leads on to the fact that Valentina puts the Thunderbolts together to be a team that can combat those threats, rather than having rogue people going around killing random people who are Skrulls and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. There's so many loose threads. It's actually an episode I'm planning on doing in the near future, which is like the biggest untold threads of the MCU. So things like, Star Fox appearing at the end of Eternal,
we talked about
never been touched, and just things like that. So there's a lot that they are, obviously Hulk's son, just fucking popped up out of nowhere, and it's like, even though he couldn't have kids, so it's just like, there's a lot that needs to be addressed.
Oh wait. He banged a giant alien in Planet Hulk. That's how he had a kid.
Yeah,
she was huge. She was strong too.
I'm sure it wasn't She-Hulk.
She could take it. I forgot. It was like,
oh, that's Old Man Logan. Never mind.
Yeah. I was going to say, Remember saying they need to redeem the Hulk big time. Absolutely,
big time.
I think it's going to be a lot that they can do with cameos and stuff coming up as well. And I think they unleash.
Look at all the Hulk cast that's going into this from the original Hulk movie with Edward Norton, like Betty, the leader. There's all kinds of stuff coming back into this Cap movie.
And I remember saying that they should have made Secret Invasion like a whole phase to set up the new Avengers.
Totally agreed. Yeah. That should have been a phase, and the Avenger movie should have been Secret Invasion. But, I also saw something recently that they are like pushing Armor Wars until after Secret Wars because they're trying to retcon some of the Secret Invasion stuff. So I don't know if I'm diving into any Skrull stuff anytime soon with theories. But I think if that wasn't true, though, it'd make a lot of sense for the Skrulls to be in the movie. Because it would be a spy thriller, like they said. It'd be like Winter Soldier, and the president said they're not allowed on the planet. That could also be why Asgard has to be attacked.
I was just going to say that ties into your theory with Asgard there. But that show it just started a ton of stuff. Talk about a disappointment. I was so excited for that series, and by the end of it, like so much stuff. Again, like what about how long was Rhodey a Skrull for? That's got a major question there.
I think they did confirm that it's been like since post Endgame.
Okay, so it wasn't. But yeah, so I'm just curious how, why, where that ties in, and then there's something else that I just had in my head, and then I just totally spaced that came out of that series too. But like we went to the Marvels movie, and the whole premise with the Skrulls being on Earth is because there wasn't a planet that could hold them, and then we go to the Marvels movie and we find the Skrulls. Different Skrulls on a planet with a home base there and everything. It was like, so you're aware? I don't know. There were just so many plot holes and questions that came out of that series.
Well, thank the maker that Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are back in charge of things moving forward. So,
absolutely, MCU's coming back. I think.
Yeah, I think this is the year for it, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's let's move on then, shall we? So. A little bit of show and tell. Just wanted a little bit of fun because it's always nice to see anything that anyone can bring to the table that's a little bit different. Have you guys got anything that you can bring forward for a little bit of show and tell?
Well, let me just take myself off the list. I'm just moving, so I got nothing.
Yeah. I did wonder about that. To be fair, so I was like, I'm not going to ask you to dig shit out your boxes.
I'll do one for JD and one for me. Well, Andy, this is for you. I was gonna bring up something else, but I figured we'll throw this in here. It's a little Christmas gift I got. It's small, but it's an old school kind of thing, and I just love all the old Star Wars stuff. So I got these little framed posters sent from my brother-in-law, and they're the actual official patent for the U.S. from 1983 for the TIE bomber here.
That's sick.
And all the figures and whatnot, and they've got the patent date in each year, which. Interestingly enough, the X-Wing here is 1994, which I don't understand that because the entire trilogy was out before 1994, but for some reason, that's when this patent for the X-Wing came in. But yeah, there's just like 4 or 5 different things that I just always love seeing the original stuff from the 80s and 90s and the 70s, if you're talking about New Hope. Yeah, what do you got there, son?
Question: why isn't that hanging on the wall behind you?
Yeah, man.
Beautiful.
Look how bare that wall is, man.
They're literally next to the star. I just took them off the wall, but you can't see them because they're in the deep. I know my wall is so pathetic. Let's not draw attention to that. Pay no attention to the wall behind me. But the other thing I want to throw in, that was Star Wars for you, Andy. But I got this book for my wife here. It's the Encyclopedia of Tolkien.
Ooh,
history and mythology that inspired Tolkien's world. And so it just shows all the stuff throughout the Lord of the Rings, all the different characters, and it just shows how they all would back up in reference to mythology across the world. So a lot of British mythology out there, a lot of all types of different cultures and all of their god stories and everything else, and how they're kind of inspirations to these stories in Tolkien. So just super interesting. If you're a fan of Tolkien and you're a fan of mythology too, it's kind of a perfect little combination there. But my wife surprised me with that this Christmas, and I thought it was a pretty cool little thing.
Yeah, that's sick.
I knew that would invoke a comment from my wife in the comments there, so she's liking that as well. Yeah, that's a cool little gift. I like that. Thank you for showing us that one.
Yeah,
I have got. I'm on point today with the theme of what we're here to do, which is obviously a Godzilla, and is the theme of what I've got to show off today. So, just going to run through some of my collection of Pop Funkos for Godzilla. To be fair, because they released a whole bunch of them recently from like different eras as well. So there's like ones from like 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s, up to like obviously the ones that they make just generally for the MonsterVerse films. So we'll see what we've got here. So we've got the Godzilla Ultima,
nice.
which was quite a cool little one, I thought. Just something that I saw randomly in the shop and went, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to start a little Godzilla Pop Funko collection, just to really offset my Star Wars collection behind me. So
there you go.
That one there. And then we've got 1954 Godzilla. Just looking a little bit derpy, to be fair, but
squished face. I love it.
But it's not too bad. Then we jump to 1984, so just the year after I was born. Looking a little bit more menacing, to be fair. Still kind of cute and cuddly, like a Funko Velociraptor.
I like the black eyes,
like a cat face. It's kind of squished and pudged in there. I like it.
Then we jump into the MonsterVerse ones. So we've got from Godzilla versus Kong New Empire. Got one there. And he does have like on this like if you opened it up and put it together, there's like a heat ray breath, as you can see on the picture there that he's got. Nice. So it's like the nice pink Godzilla, to be fair. And then a couple of the cool ones that I've got from there's this one, well, it's Mothra, to be fair, but from Mothra from the King of Monsters film.
Looks like a dildo.
Okay.
Look at that. Look at that. Andy, the wrong toy?
I can't say that was the first thing. You're talking about the picture on the
Look
left.
At the picture.
Oh, the picture. Okay. Jesus
okay.
There's a flat testy.
But you know, these are like the black light ones that like glow when you shine them on there.
Oh, nice.
So you don't need to have your light on late at night. Yeah.
And then from the Godzilla versus Kong one, nice.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, nice coloured up Godzilla one that was quite funky, to be fair.
That's a glow one too, right? I can tell from that one. Oh yeah, he looks way more menacing there, even pink, than the 80s ones and the 60s ones there.
And then just because this is what my wife got me for my birthday present,
I was going to ask you about this one because I saw it. I have that too.
Wait, yeah, what?
I have that too. Yeah, that's sick. I think so.
Somebody on our podcast has that one.
Does that thing humidify out of its mouth?
Yeah, it does. Let me.
Yeah, dude, and it walks, right?
Yeah. He's got the remote control.
Did I have the same thing?
It's like a little monster foot.
Yeah, I got that too. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then if I can just get him to light up and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. I didn't put water in there yet. I got to put water in there.
But yeah, just put the little water in the top bit, and then I just love the fact that the whole thing lights up. So.
Pretty sick.
Yeah. Well, the sound design's pretty cool. Right? Oh, that's cool.
It does make me laugh that people use this as a dehumidifier for their plants, or humidify for their plants.
Yeah.
Hey, Godzilla is all about balancing nature, right? So it works. He's doing his job just on the small side of things. That's sick. Yeah.
I made a Snapchat and I had it behind me and I was going to click the button for it to light up and scream at us. And then instead I hit the button for it to walk. So the Snapchat just had it walk right off the shelf and fall. Break it right when I... No.
Yeah, remember saying that Godzilla looks like he lifts. I'm not sure which one he was referring to there, but it's the fact that like we've got a bearded dragon, and I did put Godzilla on the floor and like make him walk up to the vivarium and just like be screaming at my bearded dragon, and then my wife saying I'm going to let the bearded dragon battle that.
That's
so
hilarious.
I'm going to put them out into the lounge at some point and just let them go at each other and just see what happens.
Oh, you
better see the footage on that.
Yeah,
I'll film it. Don't worry. I'll start a betting ring. It's fine.
There you go. I'm there.
Oh, yeah.
Because our bearded dragon's called Gimli as well. So like Gimli versus Godzilla, it'll be fine.
It's a fight everybody's always wanted to see.
yeah, why not? It'll be interesting, wouldn't it? Don't think Gimli's going to last very long. But speaking of which, let's get on to the main event. So we are here to review this bad boy comic, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. So it's essentially like an Elseworlds comic. It's neither continuity. It's part of the main continuity for either the MonsterVerse or the DC. So it is just its own little thing. But just to review quickly what the comic is about. So the Legion of Doom try and break into Superman's Fortress of Solitude because they want to steal a mother box, and Toyman can't help himself but pick up the Dreamstone and make some stupid wish, and they end up being transported to the MonsterVerse, where they are on Skull Island and come into contact with some of the Titans over there, and then Toyman. They basically work out that these monsters would be perfect to use against the Justice League, because obviously led by Lex, they want to kill them off. And so Toyman makes a wish, and all the monsters. And what seems like all the research for the monsters from Monica and stuff as well seem to get transported back into the DC universe. And we get some really cool face-offs, including Godzilla versus Superman. There's a Kraken involved at some point in Atlantis as well. We got Tiamat versus Godzilla versus the Kraken, as well as I think Supergirl and Kong seem to have a bit of a connection throughout it as well. But basically, they all go up against each other. Lex builds or he rebuilds the Mecha Godzilla because he wants to be able to take down the Justice League once and for all. Batman seems to build his own version of some sort of Mechzilla or Mechbat. And they have a final battle where they're eventually defeated, and they are then transported back, obviously, to their own universe at the end of it. Godzilla's got a bee in his bonnet about the fact that he's obviously there to maintain the balance of nature, and Superman, being an alien that's on Earth, is shouldn't be there, as he believes. So that's why he sort of has a bit of a beef with Superman throughout it as well. Superman gets pretty fucked up by Godzilla's heat ray at one point as well. So, guys, what were your initial thoughts on seeing this comic and then reading it?
I had one thought going through my head for the majority of reading this, and that was this would be much more entertaining as a movie compared to a comic series. So that was my first thought, And overall, I wasn't expecting this to be a work of art. I was expecting some fun concepts, some creative things thrown in there, maybe Batman punches Godzilla in the face once, something ridiculous like that. And it certainly has its fair share of ridiculous aspects in it. There were 3 or 4 times where I laughed out loud when I saw the panel, and it's like, oh, you got to be freaking kidding me. They just did that. Half the fun of these monster movies for me is seeing the massive scale, the devastation, the thunderous punches behind these massive things moving so slowly behind people running around. And it doesn't land quite the same on page. So the monster versus monster fights, the stuff like that, it really wasn't that entertaining for me. So yeah, overall, it wasn't an amazing story, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't worse than I expected. It had some cool details, some smart decisions here and there. So what they what they did with what they had here, I thought it was fine. Probably won't reread it ever, but it was fun.
Yeah, and your point, Dave, would kind of add it. I agree with something that I didn't even have before, but my point is your point with the climactic scale. God, that was terrible talking. But if you take things like Josh Whedon's Astonishing X-Men and Cyclops blowing that Sentinel away, the whole page goes red. Like you could do stuff like that I expected more of, right? Or another X-Men one like Genosha, large scale devastation that you see on page. So yeah, I was expecting more of that. I didn't expect much, but I still expected more on a lot of different aspects. Excuse me, I'm having a stroke.
Emotional,
but I expected, like when Tom Taylor does things like Injustice or Deceased, they take a really strange concept but he still has the characters like so true to the characters, and the banter is funny and the moments of action are large and crazy. It's like, I think Tom Taylor would have written this so well, and I was kind of looking for that vibe. It's a weird concept, right? Godzilla, Kong, blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to have fun with it. I thought they did the same thing the movies did too, where there's just too much humans. And in this case, the humans were like the villains and the Justice League characters and the other DC characters. Like there was too much of them doing stuff that wasn't interesting enough. Like you could have people in there if it's interesting enough. I thought there was too much screen time for the villains. I thought take them out, just do Lex Luthor, do more page time on why he's doing it, how he's doing it, him finding and studying these monsters, the amount of devastation they can cause, like build that up in his plan. And then it's the showdown. The whole Justice League fights Godzilla, the whole Justice League fights King Kong, and then whatever climactic ending fight they have. So there's just too much page time, too much like whatever stuff, and not enough action that sounds just like the movies. But also like the characters weren't like, they were just kind of there. Not really that funny, not really that tactical, not really that. They were just kind of there. It was just too surface level. So I expected more. Yeah, like shallow. And like I think you could pull it off in a comic with this, but it didn't really work out. I'm telling you though, Tom Taylor would do it perfectly.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree that it definitely fell flat at times. He was expecting more monsters. I was expecting, or more fights with the monsters anyway. Yeah. I was expecting a bit less sort of the human side of it, or a bit more just Justice League. I mean, the title of it is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, and it did spend a lot of time with that not necessarily being the case. I love the fact that I don't like how they start off. I don't like this trope. I don't like it when anyone does it, to be fair, where you start off with kind of like they put you into a situation and then do a flashback, like here 12 hours earlier.
I know. I can't stand that.
I hate it when they do that. So I didn't like the fact that they just randomly start off with Clark and Lois on the rooftop of the Daily Planet.
Like just start 12 hours before.
Yeah.
Start there.
Exactly. So the fact that they have to go through that, I'm like, okay, you just wasted a couple of pages for nothing, just setting up what's going to happen for them later on, for no reason. What did you feel about the whole gist of how they get brought into the universe? So Toymaster, they break into the Fortress of Solitude. Toymaster picks up the Dreamstone, wishes them to the Monsterverse, and then gets them wished back through to the main DC universe. I was wondering how it was going to happen. Because they obviously didn't know that beforehand. I thought there was maybe going to be some experiment they were doing, and they cause a rift in the multiverse, and somehow the monsters come across that way, rather than having like the Dreamstone. Is this the same Dreamstone that they used in was it Wonder Woman 1984 film?
Oh. Yeah.
Not to remind anyone of that awful film. To be fair.
That was great.
Yeah, it was top notch. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, so getting them sort of wished across that way, and then wished them back with everything, and somehow they arrive with like all of the Monarch Research Station and all of their research and all the on all the monsters as well, and then reactivating Mechzilla wherever he happened to be at the time. He came back into the universe. What were your thoughts on that part of the story?
I was confused. I didn't get if it was just a rift or whatever, or he wished these monsters into this universe. I guess I don't understand how he knew to wish for that, unless he was watching those movies the night before or something. Like I don't know how he specifically wished to have the Monsterverse brought in. I wasn't sure how Lex got all of Mechazilla and was just able to put him back together, but was also in the same universe as the rest of the Justice League and everybody else. I didn't get how they got the Monarch. I get it that these beasts came from another universe, but how did you get all of the Monarch information and research and everything too? Unless the universes combined, that's what I didn't get. Did they just bring the monsters over? Did their universes merge? I was very cloudy on that aspect of it. I guess maybe you're not supposed to think that far into it. It's just a fun thing to watch the monsters fight. But yeah, as far as that goes, I didn't think they really set it up very detailed. I was pretty in the dark.
Yeah, I didn't really understand. I didn't really care. I just moved on. I just wanted to see the fights.
Right.
Plus, I was kind of bummed it was a Toyman thing. I was, like I said, I was hoping it would be more Lex Luthor driven, because it'd be cool if he like had this master plan and he went and used some device to go to that universe and bring them back. Like, excuse me. Yeah, so I was just whatever on that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think this comic is anything we're supposed to think deeply about, is it? It's just take it as it is on surface value, to be fair.
Need a prequel series.
Yeah, well, no, let's not. To be fair, Godzilla versus Superman is supposed to be obviously one of the big points of this film. And it seemed, to be fair, Godzilla can take pretty much anything that he had thrown at him from any of the Justice League or anyone else. To be fair, he was taking plenty of punches from Superman and occasionally got knocked over, but no worse than what Kong did to him or anyone else in any of the films that we've seen. And then Superman gets his ass shredded by he's protecting Shazam and gets his ass shredded by Godzilla's heat ray. Interesting that they sort of showed that he did that much damage, because I've always wondered, on realistic terms, what damage would Godzilla's heat ray do to any of these heroes? Because I know that they've been recently doing a Godzilla Avengers comic as well, and Wolverine got vaporized by Godzilla's heat ray, adamantium and all. So on the flip side of it, they're like, let's vaporize Wolverine, but then like Superman was like nearly killed but not quite. So do you think that's JD, you're the big DC one out the three of us here, do you think it's realistic that Superman would have been that damaged, or should he have been vaporized, or how would you feel it should have gone down?
Godzilla fought Wolverine. What was that again?
It's the Avengers comic that's been sort of running recently.
Interesting.
Because it's all kinds of fucked up, that comic, to be fair, because like Venom takes over Godzilla at one point, and so you've got Venomized Godzilla. And they were talking about how like Godzilla was Venom's perfect host. And the shot of it in the comic is terrifying. But yeah, there's one moment when he basically unleashes his heat ray and vaporizes Wolverine, adamantium and all.
Okay, so I don't even think it would vaporize Wolverine, to be honest. But I don't know. I don't know much about Godzilla. But I also absolutely don't think it would shut Superman down. I don't know. He's just too strong. He's like crazy strong. He's like indestructible. But I guess we don't have a lot to go with Godzilla's breath. But Superman versus Godzilla was one of the highlights, I think. One of the cooler moments. I think they powered up the monsters quite a bit, because really, if you asked me Godzilla versus Superman, I would think that Superman just destroys him with one punch. And if he did, fly through the back of his mouth like Thor did to that monster and whatever. The thing is, they don't want to kill things, right? So I guess, how do you shut down Godzilla without killing him? He could kill him easy, but how do you just like knock him out? But it was cool. I liked the heat ray, blasting Superman. I think I've just seen that trope too many times. Superman going down in the early part of the stories, figure out how to heal him throughout the story just so he can come back and save the day. Right? We saw it in the movie. We saw it in Justice League. We saw it in Final Crisis, kind of. He went away. He didn't get beat. We saw it in recently Mark Waid's World's Finest, which is actually really good, but it started out the same way. So it's a trope, but it was one of the more exciting parts. It was Godzilla on the page. I wanted much more Godzilla. He was the most exciting monster to watch them fight, for sure. Yeah,
definitely. Do you think it was accurate how they portrayed Batman's response to Clark, to Superman being sort of taken out? Because he seems to be very emotional about it, very much in denial that he would be dead.
Well, he's the only one who's ever read a Justice League comic book before, obviously, because everybody else is thinking he's dead. Batman's like, this has happened like 6 times. He's not dead. Stop acting like he's dead. Read a book. Yeah, it seemed like he was very angry and emotional about it, though. That was interesting. It didn't feel like there was a lot of written around that. We just kind of saw him get pissed and angry. And then
Batman's always done. Too emotional about stuff. It's always like, all right, just tone it down. Relax a little bit, pal.
Dude, but so you said that thing about them not wanting to kill. Does that apply to a Titan monster?
I know, right? I don't know. I think
killing
so.
Innocents. Or
I don't know.
So you think he is? You think he's going to be killing innocents? Because I was thinking like he could probably just fly right through his heart. He's just throwing uppercuts and fighting him and whatnot. But on the Godzilla, his breath is atomic, isn't it? They even made the mention of there was radiation around Superman when he was like near death. So I feel like a full atomic blast like that could at least,
what happens
how Superman does with radiation, but
but we saw him get nuked. He kind of heals up pretty quick from that. But I mean, Godzilla's breath is probably stronger than a fictional nuke in Batman vs Superman. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw Godzilla get revived by literally a nuke in the movies, so he feeds off of that type of radiation. So yeah, I don't know. I will say though, the other beasts. I don't know. I guess we could get into that later. But Superman's heat vision and the atomic blast stopping in midair, I felt like that was too much for me. I felt like the atomic blast would be more powerful than heat vision. But
that I did point to my wife when I said this. I was like, oh, apparently Batman's heat vision cancels out Godzilla's atomic breath because they're just like firing and just meet in the center of the page.
Superman,
yeah. I'm not quite sure if that would work, but I mean, we mentioned the other monsters. I mean, because you've got like Godzilla and Kong that are essentially like the more sentient type ones, I guess, out of all of them. Because the other ones that arrived were sort of just rampaging, and whilst they're being sort of summoned by a beacon to destroy things, Kong and Godzilla are a bit more focused on. Kong's more trying to work things out because I guess, thinks more human-like. Whereas Godzilla's just like, there's an alien on this planet who doesn't belong. I want to fuck him up. Sort of attitude. So it's fair to say that when they were talking about, they weren't necessarily talking about killing him, were they? Because they were like, oh, we'll just try and get him away from the populated areas into the ocean or away, something like that. Whereas the other ones, when you got like the big crab one and the mammoth one, the mammoth one, and they're just like, oh, they're fucking shit up. Let's just try and kill them straight up.
Kill it. Yeah.
Amy just saying, if I were Superman, I'd use my X-ray vision to see how Godzilla stands in the sea.
Oh, wouldn't we all?
Yeah, that needs answering, that question. But I thought an interesting part of this, when we go over to Kong, was there was an interesting bit, a sort of triangle between Kong, Supergirl, and Grodd. So Grodd thinks he's some sort of god when he first shows up Kong, and he brings all the other apes, doesn't he, to like bow before Kong, and he just sees that is like the big guy, and then he uses his telepathy, doesn't he, to control him and Supergirl, and sort of make them fight on their behalf. So I don't know whether I've seen Grodd control like Superman or Supergirl in the comic before through mind control. I thought that was maybe an easy way out for them to use his power like that, just to quickly coerce. And I'm not sure if Kong would be susceptible to such a thing either. But then again, Grodd being super intelligent and stuff, I guess it's a possibility. I just don't know whether he would have a strong enough mind to take over a Titan. What do you reckon?
Right.
I haven't seen that either in the comics, so yeah, I don't know.
Well, and they showed he had a kryptonite dealie on his head in this one, which is why he was able to get Supergirl. I don't know if that would help with. I don't see how that would help with Kong, but it was hilarious that Grodd just instantly bows to him and brings all of his friends. They're like, all right, there's this massive ape over here. Come on. He's got to be our god.
Yeah. Did make me laugh a little bit. What was I going to touch on next? So before they get to the final battle and they're sort of prepping everything, we get down to Atlantis. And obviously Aquaman just wants to protect the city, because you got Tiamat that we saw in the most recent Godzilla film that Godzilla absolutely fucking destroyed to turn himself pink. Tiamat and Godzilla show up and start fighting each other outside, and so they decide the only way that they can combat this is to release the Kraken. So you've got Tiamat versus Godzilla versus the Kraken. That made me laugh, to be fair. I was like, I'm pretty sure Godzilla would rip through a Kraken quite quickly. I didn't even know that they had a Kraken in storage, to be fair. So that was a bit of a surprise.
I think I've seen the Kraken in Aquaman comics, but I'm not sure.
Well, we kind of see him in the Aquaman movie. It's not named the Kraken, but it's the giant sea beast once he becomes the king of Atlantis, and he comes out with the trident and he's commanding this massive thing that comes to the battle, and it's voiced by was it Julie Andrews, The Sound of Music? Super random little thing there, but he is in the movie, and it's a Kraken type beast. So I've seen bits and pieces of that, but it seemed like a hasty move to just release a third beast into the mix when you're trying to protect a fragile dome, but to each their own.
I'll say locking Godzilla down under the ocean was an interesting aspect that kind of got me re-engaged to the story. I was like, oh, what do they got going on here? So
with the nth metal, how do you pronounce
that?
NTH
metal, yeah.
Nth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
I was going to bring up next is like, I guess nth metal would be strong enough to do such a thing, and to keep him locked away out the game is a smart move on their behalf. So probably the smartest thing that any of them did against Godzilla, to be fair, during the whole time. But we get the little side story again with like Lois finding out that Clark was going to propose before Godzilla showed up, and then whilst Superman's healing in his little pod on the space station, and Lois is like, doing the whole speech to him about, I'm definitely going to say yes when you wake up, so make sure you wake up. Like, come on, I don't need that cliche romantic bit in this story. I didn't need that whatsoever. But then Superman just randomly wakes up, and he's disappeared. And we find him having gone down in the ocean to have a bit of a chat with Godzilla. And he's like, I don't know if you can understand me, but he's like, I'm not here to hurt you. And he's like, but Superman had somehow worked out that because they've been looking for Toy Master this whole time, and they want to find the Dreamstone. And it turns out that Toyman had been killed on like the first day the monsters appeared in the universe because Godzilla trod on him, and that the Dreamstone has been stuck on the bottom of his foot this entire time because it's been like a couple of weeks, isn't it, since they've been there. This to me was I hated this little bit of the story. I'm like, just a way to get out of it was just to put that the stone was stuck on the bottom of his foot the entire fucking time, and Superman somehow managed to work this out and retrieved it straight away. Tell me I'm not alone on this one, that this was ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, but I was like, screw it. That's kind of funny. The whole time, the guy who started it off instantly got just stomped on, just classic Godzilla stomp, and dead. Nobody knows where he is. They just find him in a crevice, and the stone's just been lodged in his foot. It was ridiculous, but for this type of story, I was like, all right, I'll give you that one. that works, I guess.
What about the interactions throughout the whole comic between Green Lantern and Flash?
I've seen way better out of that. They just didn't. None of the human stuff mattered, dude. Who cares about a marriage story and a getting engaged story in the midst of Godzilla versus King Kong versus Justice League? Like that, nothing really hit. Even Guy Gardner just died. I didn't even realize he died. I didn't realize it. Until Superman said, "Yeah, I'm sorry about Guy. He was a good guy." I'm like, what? He died? I mean, so none of that really hit. There was no emotional tie to any part of the story. Which don't expect.
There was a couple quick deaths like that too. Atom Smasher. Like there was one panel, and I was like, "Oh, is he dead?" And then there was seriously one he killed him. Was like the next panel. I was like, "Oh, I guess he's dead." He got bit in the neck, I think, by Godzilla. That was
a weird one too.
Titans. Yeah.
And then guy just got stomped into the ground and just like, "Oh, he's dead," I guess. I felt like they could have built more emotion to that, but they kind of just had it happen and then left it.
Yeah.
I did. So the guy who wrote this, Brian Buccellato. Looking at stuff he's done, the majority of stuff he's done has been stuff with Injustice and stuff with Flash. So I'm guessing that's why he kind of tried to lean into the Flash and Green Lantern back and forths. But I thought it could have been done a little better.
Yeah, Tom Taylor wrote most of Injustice though, right? He just did a little bit. Yeah. I wonder which ones he did. Because there's a couple Injustice volumes I didn't love, like the Greek God ones I didn't love.
I was going to say, I think he did year 4 and year 5, and he was somewhat involved on the early ones.
Yeah, year 4 is the Greek God one, so that's why I don't like it. It's one of the only ones I don't like.
Well, there you go.
Indeed. But yeah, it did make me laugh when just Godzilla just snaps and slashes his neck just from behind as well, just grabs him, does it. And then was it the mind controlled Kong that just stomps on Guy Gardner?
I forgot.
I can't remember. I think it was. But so that just made me laugh. And the fact that the rest of the Green Lanterns just randomly turned up as well, just at the moment that Hal needed it to protect the dome over Atlantis. It's just like a cool random backup just appeared out of nowhere. That's just what they needed here, to be fair. But we get to that final battle, so it's kind of revealed that, as we said, that Lex is sort of rebuilt Mecha Godzilla. The Bat family have built their own sort of Pacific Rim droid to go out, mech to go out and fight them as well. And it's basically almost like a free for all, this final battle. Were there any moments that sort of really captured your imagination in this final battle?
No, not really. I was expecting more from it for sure. Yeah.
I picked a really good comic to review here, didn't I? This was so boring.
No, but I did really want to read it. But I will say I liked that last shot of what was it? Godzilla, Superman, and one other person just hitting someone with a beam. That's always fun when you got three people doing their powers on one person together, like Ultron there with Thor, Iron Man, and whoever else in the movie.
Oh yeah, Iron Man, Thor, and Vision, rocking Ultron there. So, yeah, the ending for me. Okay, issue 6 and issue 7. Issue 6 contained the majority of the panels where I read and started laughing when I first saw it. First was the Batman. Of course, Batman builds his own giant robot. We just see Titan Batman, and then we see Green Lantern Robo popping up that kind of looks like a Power Rangers meets Pacific Rim style massive armor there. Lex comes in with the Mechazilla stuff. So it just turned into like Pacific Rim so quick that we just had all these various massive robots fighting each other. But I will say, I thought bringing in the Legion of Doom, I thought it was kind of a nice touch because it wasn't all fights with Titans. We got to see on the ground fights going on in issue 6 here, and the League and Green Arrow fighting off against the Legion of Doom. And I almost forgot Ra's al Ghul, of course. He drops what are they called? Skull crawler. I think those monsters drops a skull of a skull crawler into the Lazarus pit, and he brings himself a massive army of Titans. So we had just Titans on every corner of the world coming around to get into this final showdown. But no, overall, I thought the issue 7 actually had some fun scenes. Like JD said, it was Superman, it was Godzilla, both firing on this massive skull crawler, and then it was Green Lantern Kong.
I was about to get to that. You kind of like,
sorry. He envisioned that weapon straight from the Godzilla vs. Kong movie with the Godzilla spine, and he smashes straight into the dome with that skull crawler. So that was those three all fighting.
I think that was the Superman and
that's a cool shot
on the skull crawler.
Yep, and then that axe drills him. Yeah, what did we think about Kong?
So this is what I was about to say. I was like, the moment when like one of the Green Lanterns, I can't remember, was sat over Guy Gardner's body, and he's like, his rings disappeared, and then all of a sudden it fucking flies through the air and it lands on my lights in the way, but lands on Kong, and so we get Green Lantern Kong fucking come up, and so yeah, fuck me, that was it was both cool and incredibly cheesy at the same time, I thought. And he just like magics up his axe there that we see from the films. Yeah, so he can imagine what he wants to do.
I thought it was creative,
but yeah, I mean, it was funny. I thought, like I said, I thought it was incredibly cheesy and yet kind of cool at the exact same point.
I was trying to make a story about recording with you, and it just blasted in our face. Sorry,
it's all good. It's all good, buddy. Although the bat mech that kind of just rips over here, just rips the Mecha Godzilla's arms off as well. There were just moments in this that I'm just like,
we got the back break with Mecha Batman doing the Nightfall spine break on Lex Luthor. Yep, got the classic shot there. So that was a cool little touch.
It just makes me kind of laugh a little bit that I'm like, really? JD's
really
off again.
bad at
That was David.
But,
there's
just
creative stuff.
There were some fun moments in there. Like this, I think the final battle is kind of like what you did want to see, as it being fun. And almost, I thought when I first saw this shot that we were having like a Superman riding Godzilla moment.
Totally,
but then realized he is just floating next to him rather than anything else. So it was almost like Kong jumping on his back and riding him. What we saw in the latest film, but
yeah, to scale right there, that would be a massive, horrifyingly large Superman if that was him riding on his back.
Yeah, it would be quite amusing. Although I thought, to be fair, as much as I like the Flash, I thought he was eerily missing from the final battle.
Yeah,
the kind of powers he has and what he can actually do. He could have ended a lot of the Legion of Doom in seconds, to be fair.
Yeah. Could have taken like a big steel cable and freaking wrapped up a monster. You could have played a lot of cool stuff with the Flash.
He just looked for a beacon for the whole time. One of the times he did his little tornado arms and was pushing off one of the monsters by Atlantis. But other than that, we really didn't see him do much.
Huge missed opportunity. Should have wrapped up their legs with some steel cable or whatever, and then said, "Remember that movie with the walking thingy?
That
really old movie." And they could have knocked him down. Yeah, they could have played with the Flash more.
Yeah.
If they were really using the Justice League to their full capacity, do you think that they could have really wiped the floor with the Titans incredibly quickly?
Yeah. Wait. How'd you start that question?
Yeah. So if the Justice League were being used to their full capabilities and their powers being used at full capacity, could they have wiped out the Titans incredibly quickly in this?
2 minutes. Done.
I think Crypto agrees in the background there.
Yeah. Well, dude, Green Lantern and all their ingenuities and their large, that you could have de-limbed these dudes. Superman could be flying straight through these things' hearts, dude. You can chop their feet off from the ground. Wonder Woman could totally chop some legs off from the ground. I don't know. I feel like they could have done that super easily.
You could have sat them down, tied them up, and burned their limbs off one by one.
It's called hog tie. Learn about it. That's one thing I have noticed in all these. Godzilla never gets defeated, and I have to wonder if that's a part of the contract when they do these crossover stories. And so far, from what I've seen with the Avengers ones, the older one, because there was one that came out in the 90s or so, and in this one, they never beat Godzilla. They just end up teaming up with him and destroying somebody else, and then Godzilla swims off like he does in all of his other movies. So I'm curious if that's in the contract, that they just aren't allowed to kill Godzilla, or at least defeat him. But he wins every time. Yeah,
it reminds me of Ned Bean, and he was like not okay with his character dying all the time.
Oh, Sean Bean.
Bean.
Ned Stark.
Holy shit. Sean Stark.
Bean.
I was just nodding along going, yes, Ned Bean. Never heard of that guy.
I'm sorry.
Lots of guys.
But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to be that kind of situation. He doesn't want that legacy for his actor. You see him, he's dying. So, but Godzilla's like a legend. He's like the most legendary kaiju ever. So the creator's probably like, no, you can't beat him.
A little bit of Dwayne Johnson going on in that contract there. Not allowed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's fair enough, though. Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I don't think they want to see Godzilla get beaten ever, do they? So, especially since they made this one it's not like the Godzilla -1 Godzilla that's just fucking shit up just because he's a little bit narked or he just wants to. This Godzilla's like maintaining balance in the universe and is like an anti-hero almost, isn't he? So,
right,
you don't want to see them get beaten.
I was gonna say, if you have like one of the more grounded, better Godzilla films, and that movie has a scene way more cool and climactic, badass, devastating than anything in a Justice League fight comic, man, I was like expecting some more of that kind of stuff. Which, I mean, cinema, I mean, it's way different. The big screen effect of that is different, but still, you could pull off some really cool stuff off on the page for comics.
Yeah.
But they didn't really nail it. That's all right.
Yeah, I think that's the overall sentiment, isn't it? As we sort of bring this little crazy review to an end, is just the fact that this was a very plain comic that they didn't really push the boat out in any sort of means. It was a little bit cliche here and there, and they, as they always seem to do in monster films, involve the humans way too much, and they just didn't. I mean, if you're going to make an Elseworlds comic where it doesn't affect either continuity of either sort of like universe, just go balls to the wall. have them absolutely fucking shred the shit out of every city and every hero or every villain, and have the Justice League really struggle to use their powers in full capacity against them. Just make it that you make it worthwhile.
Apocalyptic.
Exactly. That's what I was kind of expecting, and I was expecting more actual fights between like some of the individual monsters and the Justice League heroes, and I just don't think they quite lived up to, unfortunately, this comic, did they? So.
Well, and the other thing is if you're gonna spend so much time on the human element, like again they do in the movies, and it's always awful, it's written terribly in the movies. If you're gonna spend that much time with the heroes, I would have liked them to go deeper. If you're gonna do it, it just felt like we had a lot of time. Like JD said, it felt all surface level. It didn't feel like we got intimate feelings on what kind of Batman we were dealing with, what kind of super. It just felt like it was all the standard heroes, their standard characteristics, and we didn't really flesh out anything. And again, I don't think that's the point, but if you're going to spend that much time on those characters, you might as well give us some interesting aspects to it instead of just like this. Yes, this is in fact Superman. Yep, that is in fact Batman. Like, I don't know what kind of Batman, where he was with things. I don't know any of this, but we spent a ton of time with them. So one or the other, if you're going to do that, write that aspect well. Oh, and I had one more thing, and it just and the art. That was the other thing. So art's big for me in comics, and this art style wasn't bad, but it wasn't like amazing. Like the Titans and whatnot, I thought could have been done better. It didn't seem they went super detailed. And I get you have a large scale thing like this, so it's hard sometimes. You've got all these little small beings in front of this monstrous thing, but the art was pretty mid for me. So it didn't detract from the story, but it didn't add to it either.
I will say it was written like it differentiates the comics that I like to read so what I'm saying is it's for a younger crowd. Like you could tell the way it's written, the way it's portrayed, everything about it. It's really not for like a good story for adult. I think if I was a kid, I would love it though. Cause it is, it's just, well, maybe not because again, it wasn't a ton of action in there as much as you would expect anyway, but that's my point. It's just kind of written for a little younger crowd, which comics are really good at being written for older crowds nowadays.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I thought the artwork was fairly clean, to be fair, in terms of some of the other things that we've seen. I think the Uncanny X-Men, that comic I reviewed with you guys on your show, the fact they jumped around with different artists from issues to issues, and there were some points when it looked as if I was looking at a depixelated picture of something from 1970. So I thought at least the artwork in this was quite clean, even if it wasn't like spectacular.
I liked it too. Yeah, I was good with the artwork.
So I just like how Godzilla looks, the MonsterVerse Godzilla. I think he looks menacing, he looks clean, and they managed to do a good job of that in the comic, to be fair. So what are we going to rate this comic then, Jen? I know, as we've said, it's not spectacular, it's not going to stand the test of time when it comes to comics, but where do we rate this?
I'll do like a 6 out of 10. It doesn't fail, so it passes, but it's not too good.
Yeah, 6.5. 6.4. Yeah, 6.4.
Just that 0.1. Just
yeah, let's not go crazy, but yeah, 6.4. Yeah, it wasn't horrible. Probably wouldn't recommend unless you're really into this theme. You're a big Godzilla and Batman or Superman fan, then for a little fun read, but probably won't reread it.
No. Yeah, I sit around a 6 as well. I don't think it's spectacular. It did enough of a job to be okay, but I was expecting more, and unfortunately, I don't think we quite got that. So, but gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming on, for having quite a good chat today about a lot of different things. I really do appreciate that. Just tell us one more time where we can find Why So Sidious.
I did the intro, Dave. Oh wait, but before that, we almost did Andy. Remember, we almost did Avengers vs. Aliens. I've heard great things about that one. Apparently, that one's supposed to be pretty good.
We will get to that one because I think I'd said I'd prefer to do that one, but they're only like halfway through the issues or something that they released them, weren't they? So they, for some reason, taking like a 2 or 3 month gap between releasing episodes, like 2 or 3 or something. So I'd love you guys to come back and do that one once that's out and we can have a read of it, because I love that idea of it. Avengers versus Xenomorphs. So
it's only 4 issues. It's supposed to be better. It's the same artist as the Hickman Secret Wars, Assad Ribic, and I think Zdarsky's writing it, and he's really good.
Nice.
I could be wrong about the writer, but the artist, yeah.
Huh? It's Alien though? It's not versus Predator, huh?
Right. No, it's Avengers versus Xenomorphs.
Oh, I was looking at Justice League. There you go. Okay. Check that out. But no, you can find us X, TikTok, Instagram at Why So Sidious Pod. While TikTok still lives, we'll see how long that is. But if it does die and you're a follower over there, we are still going to be on Instagram. We'll be on X. We're on YouTube. We're slowly getting subscribers there. So please feel free to find us on YouTube, Why So Sidious and Nerd Podcast. We got links for our merch store and all that good stuff on our socials. So yeah, you can find us socials and YouTube, baby. We're there.
Absolutely. And of course, the Galactic Core Podcast, if you've made it this hour and 25 minutes into the show and you're not following us yet, why the fuck not? I say it every time. I'm disappointed if you've got this far into the show and you haven't hit that follow button, you haven't hit that subscribe button. So make sure you're doing that. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll find Galactic Core Podcast on there. Gentlemen, that is it for this week. I appreciate you both coming on. But as always, everyone, until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.